You have something like 2 million followers on Instagram. It's a platform you promote all sorts of things, charities you're interested in, products. You are delving headfirst into Web3. Why Web3? What's interesting about it to you?
Well, I first discovered Web3 sort of around the same time I was coming out, and it was the community aspect that really sort of drew me to it. And I was pitched so many different projects. I mean, I think some company wanted me to go recreate all my Bachelor moments and sell them as NFTs. And they were going to fly me to Portugal and recreate the fence jump. They were going to do all these elaborate things that felt like a cash grab. Like, that's not what was attractive to me, at least for NFTs. It was not the money, it was a sense of community and building something from the ground up.
I mean, what's your reaction when someone says, I want to fly you to Portugal and recreate your
It definitely was enticing.
Right.
And the money and the numbers that they were throwing out to me very early on, I didn't know exactly what it meant, and I didn't really believe it. But I mean, now that we're sort of further along, you see these transactions happening, these apes, these punks, Beeple, all of that work is really selling for a good amount of money. And that sort of, for me, got my wheels spinning. How can we bring NFTs into the entertainment industry and vice versa? Because I've been part now of a few shows in which I was the face of the show or the lead of the show, but was not even in the top 1,000 paid. I wasn't compensated for what I was putting out there. So now all of a sudden I have the creativity and I have the technology to really have ownership and equity in something that I'm going to take pride in building. And I want to do that for kids, and I want to do that for what I would have loved to see as a kid.
You landed on Pocket Friends, right? So how did you get there? Take me, I don't want to use the word journey because it feels too Bachelor.
It's a little Bachelor
feels like
term, but we can change the stigma of the word journey.
Right, but take me to how you actually landed on the community that you are building, and we can delve into it.
Yeah, so Pocket Friends actually came from, after coming out, I had so many messages and so many people reaching out, sharing their stories, not only of their queer experience, but people of color that didn't feel part of enough culture, people dealing with body positivity, and people dealing with learning disabilities or have cystic fibrosis. I had so many people reaching out and sort of relating to my story. And they were sending me messages on my phone, which was in my pocket. So instead of calling them fans or followers, I called them my friends, because it felt too cheap just to label them as one of 2 million in my inbox. They were sharing their heart with me. And so I immediately thought, with this technology, I have a chance to share not only my story, but other people's stories and lift them up too. So that's what we're going to do. So creating the community aspect of this entertainment industry, letting people all over the country submit their scripts, sit in on our production calls, really contribute to building this franchise out, is the power of Web3. The community, like making sure that their voices are actually heard. For so long, Hollywood's been ran by the same people, pulling the same strings, making the same amount of money year in and year out. And now with this technology, we have the chance to sort of shift that focus. The dynamic and the power is shifting. And I want to make sure that I'm building a community of support and love, and we're going to create something epic, and that's never been done before.
And tell me how exactly it works. So for folks who aren't as familiar with this idea of NFTs, and they hear Pocket Friends, they hear NFTs, they hear community, these are all just buzzwords to them. So how exactly does this work, and how will it play out?
So as soon as we mint, which I'll share with you, we're minting on the 21st. As soon as we mint, we really truly get to work. Right now, it's just been sort of building buzz and hype and marketing, and we're not a hype project at all. We're not edgy, we're not flashy. We are a kids project that, to be honest with you, we're even ahead of the game because a lot of parents aren't in the NFT space yet. We have a lot of teachers that are in on our project and in our Discord that's been contributing. We have a couple of therapists and children psychologists in there, which is huge for us to be able to bounce ideas off of and work with our writers and animators. But as soon as we sell out, we're going to be creating the ability for all of our holders to be able to cast a vote. For every Pocket Friend NFT you have an opportunity to vote towards a script. You also have access to submit scripts yourself. So if you are a writer in Illinois or Ohio, and you don't have the access or the means or the ability, just because a lot of writers have to give up on their dreams to support their family, and they have to stay put where they're at, we want to enable them to submit their scripts, and we'll actually purchase it from you. So part of our concept here is bringing the entertainment industry outside of LA and New York. because that's true to who I am. Growing up in closeted and not really truly seeing myself in the media represented from the LA and New York people, I was in Illinois. I didn't see what I was struggling and going through in the Midwest. So I feel like giving people that opportunity to share their stories with us and us being able to put it on the big screen is going to be huge.
And the idea is that people will purchase the NFT and that this is essentially IP, right?
Yeah.
That this will be created into stories. Will it be books? Will it be films? Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, so it will, in our goal, it's going to start as an animation series, and then we will have books. We will also have podcasts. We will also have quick little audio clips for kids to listen to while they're brushing their teeth, tying their shoes. We're trying to really bridge the gap of parents connecting with their kids in meaningful ways and utilizing the time that they have with their children, that they're not in school, to continue the emotional growth. And that's sort of the mission and goal of Pocket Friends, is to create that safety and that image of when you see a pocket friend, you feel safe, you feel comforted. That is like your grounding moments at home.
And who's your audience?
I mean, honestly, my audience is everybody. Specifically for the animation show, it's geared towards 5 to 11-year-olds, and we have a focus on parents as well, because we want the parents to be able to take something away from the messaging that's going to be happening. But everybody can find messaging in a children's animation show if you look hard enough, and I think everybody can apply it to their life.
The thing that's interesting about NFTs now is there are all these incredible stories that are being created behind these characters.
Yep.
And so much of it is only accessible on Discord, which for those who aren't in Web3, Discord can be a scary place if you're just
Totally.
kind of dropping in. So where do you think this goes? How do we make this go beyond Discord and become more accessible so children of all ages or parents who want to bring their children into it can actually see it, and it's not just this niche group?
Well, I think our social media companies and our media companies are trying their best to make it easy for the transition. I mean, I'm working with the app Ibble here at South by Southwest, and it's interesting because their app is more of a conversation. It's not me preaching to people. It's not me telling them to go do this or that. It's me just getting their feedback, which is Web3, which is the NFT community. I want to know their opinion on something. So I think just media in general has a lot of control over the narrative of Web3 and the NFT community. And as long as we can focus on the positives of it that can come out, like these stories, I think we're in a good place.
Not to psychoanalyze it, but it certainly seemed like your time on The Bachelor and you coming out and telling your own story, you were trying to take control of your narrative when you felt like you had lost it to some degree.
Yeah.
There's something about Web3 and community building, and you talk about your community being able to actually build these stories that feels much more of being able to control the narrative and create it on their own. Is there a connection there?
Totally. I mean, I think it's hard because being successful and trying to work really hard, you have an ego that comes into play, and you have a sense of control that you feel like you need to have. And I think that's what I've learned, is I'm at my happiest when I'm least in control now. And I was very controlling in my past, but I was very controlling because my life was so compartmentalized. I was dealing with so many different demons at so many different times, and being on TV while having one of the biggest secrets somebody can have and living a complete lie. And I didn't mean to do that. I wouldn't have done that on purpose, but it's just sort of how my life shaped and the messaging that I got from our society, that I couldn't be a gay football player. I couldn't be a gay Christian. I couldn't like what I like and like men. So now I have very little control, but at the same time, I still can work hard and be creative, and that's what's exciting about Web3.
And you even said recently, like going on The Bachelor was like trying for conversion therapy or something. What an extraordinary statement.
I mean, that's not the only thing. I mean, I was part of Pray the Gay Away. I was part of like truly asking God, why me? Why did you do this to me? I grew up in the church. I was a good servant to you. Like, why is this my sin? So I had a lot of things to work through, and I wanted so badly just to be straight, to the point that I signed up for a dating show to date 30 women publicly, thinking the further I got in those relationships with those women, the straighter I would become. If I got engaged, there's no way I can go back to be gay because I just made a commitment. Then once I get married, that door is completely closed. And kids, once I have kids with somebody, and it was very selfish to have that mentality, but it was also something that I, at the time, believed that I could truly change myself.
Yeah. The interesting thing, and I think we hear a lot about this with Web3, is we're entering this new era of the internet, which doesn't have to be so much about how about our physical identity or the thing
Yeah.
we put out in this curated way on social media. It can be more how we're represented by our avatars, how we choose to want to be represented. There's a little less pressure. And it certainly seems like that's very appealing,
Yeah.
maybe to someone like you, but also to folks who are growing up in a more immersive web where there is this idea of I want to be things different than what was given to me.
Yeah, and that is something that attracted to me to Web3 right away, is how opening and welcoming the group was. I mean, I don't have it right now, but I had one of my first PFPs was a custom 101 Pocket Friend Calvin, and it had football pads on, a country hat on, the scruff, and a pride pin on the football pads. Like, just the way that you can express yourself.
I think about Web3, and I've covered technology for a long time, and I see this utopian version. Just like I started covering tech in 2009, 2010,
Yeah.
where there were these entrepreneurs who were going to change the world for the better. And then you fast forward over a decade later, and it was built, kind of by and for men to some degree. There wasn't enough diversity early on. And so what I love about Web3 is this idea that we can do a better job this go around, and we can build more communities. I do see some of these similar issues where a lot of these projects are built by many white straight men. How do you think we should get more diversity, and how do we make it more accessible to get more people into this new internet? And how can you use your platform to really encourage people to jump in?
I think the easiest answer to that is just give people a shot. Don't write them off. I mean, so often people get written off because they don't qualify on the resume, or they don't have the experience, and it's like they've never had the experience because they've never been given an opportunity. So for us specifically, we have our moderators on our team, and we call them our pocket leaders in our community. I think all of them are women, because a lot of them are superintendents or teachers. And then also we have a lot of girl dads on our team. And that is important because they understand the importance of raising a daughter and a girl in our society right now. And they have a role to play, and they have a mission to accomplish, and that is building out this franchise and the change that we feel like we can have in Web3.
So I have to ask you the question of, there's so many Bachelor contestants now who are doing so many different things and promoting so many different things. So you're going to get the criticism, right? Which is like, okay, Colton's doing an NFT. Is this the end? Is this the end of NFTs? I mean, so what is your, because you have Peter Weber who's doing like an NFT baseball thing. What is your response to the inevitable critics who say, oh, Colton, of course he's doing an NFT, but really, what's kind of behind this? What would you say to critics?
I mean, look, all I'm doing exactly what I've been doing in my career, and that's creating. And I'm creating a franchise, I'm creating a show, and I'm just happen to be applying the Web3 and the NFT technology to bring even more people into the buildup of this community, of this show. So I understand their criticism. Everybody gets criticized, especially in the early stages of any type of technology. And I don't care if I have to take some heat for the first one. I'm gonna be excited to say I told you so, I think, in a few months.
Obviously, the message behind Pocket Friends is personal to you. Extracting the theme, why is it so personal?
Obviously, because I struggled for 29 years to be myself. And I think if I could help create a safe space for kids to feel like they can truly be themselves, or explore, ask questions, and also in line with that, have parents be able to feel comfortable talking to kids about whatever they happen to be struggling with. I wish I would have had that space as a kid growing up. I wish I would have been able to see myself represented somewhere on screen. So I think it's just important. I feel like I have an opportunity, and I also have the privilege of coming out and, being accepted and being able to marry a man in today's society, that now I feel like I can keep pushing and moving the needle. And it just happens to be through an animation show for kids and through NFTs.
Do you think that NFTs will be the next iteration of influencing for a lot of folks who have been able to capitalize on their social media and their brand to influence?
Yeah, I think we're just at the beginning of the uses of what an NFT is. There's going to be so many new technologies, so many new companies, so many new applications that come out. that are really going to change the landscape for celebrities, for influencers, for consumers, especially.
Do you think when you take a step back, have you grappled with the last years of your life? You've done a lot of these things publicly. You've come out, you are living a very public existence of Colton, right?
Yeah.
Do you think you've grappled with it?
No. I mean, nobody can grapple with what I've been through, I think, in the last 3 or 4 years, even including myself. But I've definitely learned a lot. I've definitely drawn boundaries. I've definitely set new expectations of just what I need to expect from work and how I divide my personal life to my public life to protect myself in the best way. But I just think like reflecting is, I fell on my face multiple times in front of America, and I'm still standing, I'm still surviving, I'm still alive, and I have grown so much and I've become so much healthier than the version I was 3 years ago.
What's the difference between the Colton sitting here in front of me now than the one that we all saw on TV jumping over the fence?
Oh, I mean, I just have a much better understanding of who I am now. I think, at that time I had no clue, or I had an idea of who I wanted to be, but I just never could be it because I wasn't born to be that. So I think now I just have this freedom. Yeah.
You just got engaged.
I did.
So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
How are you feeling?
I feel great. I wasn't like completely seeking things out, and I ended up finding someone who I just didn't not want to spend time with. And I went on a few dates prior to that, and it was like day and night. He's incredible.
What capacity?
It just, I felt like once again I was spinning my tires going on some of these days. I was like, oh, there's nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. And then all of a sudden, I meet Jordan, and it's like, oh, this is easy. This is meant to be. Like, this is like, it's so cliche. People have my best friend. And it's like, it truly, like, he's amazing in every aspect of friendship and of being a partner and a lover.
Right. And you knew immediately, or it took you a minute?
I knew pretty early on. We put a lot of work into our relationship very early on, and I think I can thank The Bachelor for that, just because.
Why?
Just because the format of the show, you learn to ask questions that sometimes people hold until, week 4, month 5. Like, it's either like one of those things that, like, if I'm going to put my time and energy into you, like, let's just make sure it's going to work.
Right.
So we just put a lot of work in our relationship really early on.
Are you ready for fatherhood?
Oh, absolutely. I think I was born to be a dad, and I truly mean that. And I'm sort of envious at all the girl dads on my team already, and that this children animation series is definitely giving me baby fever to start that. But one step at a time. I think I've been through a lot these last few years, so I want to give myself some space and to be able to breathe and really create the best environment I can to bring a kid up in this world.
Right. You're just engaged. You're just grappling with
Yes.
it. You want to take a second before.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've had these conversations. I've always known I wanted to be a dad. I have a baby list name in my phone. Like, I have all of the things.
Can you share any of the baby names?
Oh, no, that's boundaries again. You'll find out whenever we decide to release that. But yeah, it's just been a process. I didn't know until the last 2 years that 2 gay men could have kids. Like, I wouldn't even look in that direction. So being able to educate myself on the surrogacy process and how it works, and I need to go get a lawyer to draft things up. Like, it's a lot more than what I thought it was going to be, but it's possible, and that's beautiful.
You said, I think mental health is something you've been very open about. I mean, you talked on Coming Out Colton, you spoke about your own mental health struggles in a very vulnerable way. You said something recently about how you wish after the show that contestants were able to be taken care of more. Mm-hmm. Can you explain that? I mean, you wish you had been able to have more resources after you kind of walked off of a national stage.
Yeah, I just think, and I mean, look, the media took what they wanted to out of that Watch What Happens Live, where they're like, they threw him to the wolves. I was like, well, and the whole context of that is you really do change people's life. And I think that, and you make a lot of money off of changing those people's life. And there's always the business transaction of it all, but at the same time, you have to take care of the people that are included in your family and part of your franchise, and listening to them is important. And I mean, look, I've had a lot of words for the Bachelor franchise, and while I'm grateful for it, at my darkest days, they didn't listen to me of when I sort of needed that help. And I survived. I'm here now, and I want to be a spokesperson for other people who have struggled or had suicide attempts and who are not healthy anymore. Um, I think anybody who's dealt with depression or anxiety knows that it doesn't just go away. It's a constant, you're constantly working on it. I'm constantly still in therapy and still trying to have the healthy balance of a lifestyle. But yes, advocating for mental health for me is something that I'm going to continue to grow into and want to have a bigger platform in that space too.
We're sitting here, I'm interviewing you in Austin, Texas, right? This is a state that's much less friendly towards the LGBTQ community. The state makes it difficult to provide care for trans youth, which we've heard a lot about over the last months. Polls show that the debate itself has a huge impact on the mental health among trans and non-binary youth. I'm curious, as we sit here, kind of in the heart of this debate, how do you feel about it? What would be your message to folks?
My message would be to truly sit and listen to these kids, listen to our trans community, listen to our LGBTQ plus community. Not only is it happening here in Texas, but in Florida with the bill. I knew I was different at the age of 6. I couldn't comprehend and I couldn't process it until high school, where I knew I was gay. But all I know is if, not to steer away from the trans issue, but in Florida specifically, if I would have been outed by a teacher, I would have had trust issues for the rest of my life, and it would have been extremely damaging. But I think we need to find space to provide safety for the trans community here, and we need to find space to continue to really expand in the LGBTQ plus community of acceptance and love. And unfortunately, we're taking steps backwards right now, in my opinion.
How does that feel for you as someone who's gone through some of this stuff very publicly and advocated for it?
I'm still learning a lot about the community because I ran from it for so long. So I'm not the most educated, I'll say that, but I do know I hold a privilege and I hold a responsibility to speak up when I feel like something is wrong. And I feel like both here in Texas and in Florida, it is not in the best interest. Obviously all bills have parts that can be tweaked and changed, but there's certain rights and there's certain elements of human first that I feel like aren't being listened to.
What would you go back and tell a younger version of Colton? You talk about, knowing a lot of this stuff when you were younger. What would you go back and tell yourself?
I think just to trust people. My family, it was well documented on the Netflix show, whether at that time of their lives they would have accepted me or not, I think it would have given me a little bit more pride to come out a little earlier on, and it would have saved a lot of of my mental health and a lot of drama in my life over the past few years, just to be able to be myself. And I would have said trust people and lean on people. And obviously going back to pocket friends, is if I would have had something like that, I might have been able to have, the courage to have that conversation with my mom or my dad, because I would have been able to relate it to something that they might have seen with me.
And that's what you're hoping to build with this community?
Exactly. The safety and the space to create conversations that are meaningful and actually impactful to both kids and parents.